Welcome to the first
Hello.
ever episode of Third and Short NFL podcast. My name's Matt Davenport, and I don't know what side you're on actually, because I think it comes different,
Yeah.
doesn't it? But
I'll
yeah,
do both. Hello. Hello.
yeah, just a quick intro. Well, quick. It'll probably be quite long, but an intro on NFL and how we got into it, and we'll talk about last week's fixtures and probably the season so far because we're 3 weeks in now, and then we'll talk about this weekend's fixtures, whichever ones are remaining that are still going ahead. And yeah, so I don't know if you wanna. How did you get into NFL, mate?
Yeah. It's a bit of a weird one. So I have even from a young age, sort of when it was way back on like Channel 5, we sort of have it on in the background and think, oh, it's quite cool, but I just didn't have the patience, with a stop start, as everyone likes to say. But I always sort of had it on, and I loved like the Madden games more than anything. I've always been a gamer, so it was sort of an interest. And then I'd probably say probably about 6 or 7 years ago now, I worked with a lad called Lee Ogden. Shout out to Lee Ogden there. And he was a Giants fan. And yeah, well, I didn't have a team at that point, and I remember he bought an Odell Beckham Jr. jersey, and I don't know why it just piqued my interest at that point. Like Odell was obviously a massive sort of social media influence at that point. NFL's poster boy. This was before he was cocking his leg on pylons and rumors of him liking turds. But
Yes.
he was he was the face of it, and he was such an exciting player that I just thought, well, sod it. I'm not going for glory. The reason I picked Giants. But I like the team, and it's a bit cliche, but New York's New York. It's America to most sort of English people, isn't it? So I went with them, and sort of, I suppose, loosely followed them. And then until you come on the scene more than anything, I suppose. So about 3 years ago, when you came to work at the place we were at the time, I remember that sort of first conversation we had in Subway that was sort of about, NFL, and it was like, well, I've got someone here that I can now talk to about it, and people aren't just going to look at me like I'm an alien or as if you watch that crap sort of thing. And it built from there. So I suppose that first sort of year, it was like I watched the games of the Giants that were on TV, not much more. But then the year after, it was every game. Unfortunately, that was the year after we had the playoff run. I know we lost in the first game of the playoffs, but again, it's just been absolute horrid since then. But the sport, it's just, I don't know, it's just something else. Like, football has always been my first passion, but it's coincided with a love for NFL with sort of a real distaste for Spurs. The sacking Pochettino and going through all the crap we went through. So NFL's really sort of taken over, and I would probably say now that it's probably my number one. What we spoke loads, didn't we, during the off season, and the absolute agony of having to wait for it, and especially this year with the wasn't it going to happen. It just seems to be at the forefront of my mind when it comes to sport. So yeah, unfortunately, I've not picked the best team, and we've got an absolute prick of a GM. But I'm sure we'll go into that in one full episode because I could rant about it that much. But
we'll just
that's sort of it, really. That's sort of it, really, mate.
I do remember that conversation in Subway. You and I and Dan sat having a sandwich and just mentioned that I was pretty big into NFL.
I like us to be eating food.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't know why Dan came, but for me, I followed it for similar to you for years since a young age, but never really got into it like we're into it now until probably. Well, I didn't have a team, and my sister got married. I'm going to say around about 13 years ago. And she was going to America for honeymoon. And it's quite a well-documented story from people I've told. But she said, do you want to bring him back? And I was like, yeah, do you know what? I'm going to get into American football, get me an NFL jersey. So she said, yeah, of course I will. What team do you want? And I said, you know what? I don't have a team. So whatever jersey you bring me back becomes my team. And unfortunately for me, she brought me back a Raiders jersey. So for the first, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 years of that, I didn't really follow it other than watching the Super Bowl. Wasn't really into the players or the actual sport itself. It was more of the Super Bowl's a spectacle. I'll watch that. Not particularly bothered.
Yeah.
And then around about sort of 7 or 8 years ago, it just became more and more ingrained in me watching it and following it, and my relationship at the time, her family were really into it, so it seemed natural that I'd get more into it. And just from there, it's took over my life. It literally best time of the year for me, September to January. And I'm as you know, I'm obsessed with the Raiders. Unfortunately, I guess someone's got to be. And yeah, so it's certainly getting bigger over here. We're getting more and more friends in our group chat.
Yeah. Well, that's it, isn't it? You know, it's growing each week. You know, and but again, that helps more. You know, I find like the fact that we often have conversations outside of that group because we're a bit obsessive about it, and I openly say I still know probably 10% of the sport, if that. But it's just that addictive. But like you say, that group, there's still the people in there. On a Sunday, it just goes off.
It goes off,
and it's exciting. You sat there, and it's clocking up to sort of 6 o'clock. It gets to 5 o'clock, and shout out to 6. We're waiting for their live draw.
Absolutely.
Spending many a quig on trying to fish for merchandise that we probably could have bought for cheaper than the raffles I've entered.
Absolutely.
And then that's sort of it for me there. We know what's happening. I normally go upstairs. The missus has a TV downstairs. I go upstairs and stream the game. And then after that, I'll either pick a 9 o'clock game if it's a decent one, or Red Zone. And it's just having the phone in the hand, and it's just Gary, Jamie, whoever it is, just chatting away.
Yeah.
We will say that Josh Davis never speaks until Chief finally won, and then
absolutely.
he finally pipes up with one comment. And it's just, I remember there were days where that was, that is it. Those were the days when that was football for me. It was, me, probably Trell and Phil, it's my two closest mates, just talking about football all the time. Whereas now, that's sort of, it's not dead, but NFL is the one I'm, more excited about, and what will make it continue. The idea is next year, pending all this shite going on with COVID, is fingers crossed. We can get to a game, and it'd be absolutely ideal if it's, the Giants at Raiders. And
so good.
You get to Vegas, the Allegiant Stadium, in that absolute beast of a stadium, rather than that docile MetLife, and get to watch that game. Would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be. It'd be great. I'm biased, obviously. Being in Vegas would be mint. Just to sort of touch on that. At first, when the Raiders announced they were potentially moving to Vegas, I didn't really want it to happen. Even though I've never lived in America, never been to Oakland, I felt like they should probably stay there. But then more and more things that came out where the city didn't want to put any money in for a stadium. The Coliseum in Oakland is falling down. It's knackered. You can't even sit on the top tier. And then you see the plans that they have for Vegas, and it was money getting thrown around. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I've got no allegiance whatsoever to Oakland. So Vegas is a lot easier to get to, and probably a lot safer than downtown.
Yeah.
I didn't really want them to move at first, but now they're there. As you can, I'm all on board with the Vegas crew. And like you said, that stadium looks incredible. Just looks something else, and I'd love to.
It really does.
Went to the Spurs
really does.
Last year for the Raiders Bears game, and I remember texting you and the rest of the group saying that the stadium in Spurs at Tottenham is phenomenal. It is an incredible stadium. So I can only imagine the Americans doing it bigger and better like they do. that stadium in Vegas is going to be something else. You just know it is.
Oh God, mate! You just look at it, and and the colour helps. I know it sounds weird, but that black colour just makes it look that next level. It just looks clean and crisp.
It does. It's
and
impressive.
I sit there and you saw the game against the Saints, and the game against the Saints, it was such a shame that it was an empty stadium, but it was actually quite nice to watch that because you could see it all with a game going on, rather than the absolute reprobates that turn up to Raiders games and all the skulls and metal chains and weird shit like that. It was nice to see that, how good it actually looks.
Yeah, it does look mint. So let's have a little touch on results so far. We're a week 3, so Giants have had an interesting start, mate.
Can we skip that one?
Well, we'll talk about your wins. We'll move on.
Yeah, done.
But in a way, you got knobbed by the 49ers, which I didn't think would happen based on the injuries they had.
The 49ers practice squad.
The
49ers.
I literally didn't think that would happen. But close game with the Bears the week before. And then week 1 turned over by the Steelers, but the Steelers look pretty strong, really. So I don't think that's a...
And we could have won that game.
Yeah.
We could have won that game. We came into this season, Joe George, ex-Patriot special teams coach, has been around Nick Saban, who's obviously highly thought of in the college game. So, better caliber of understudy. You get exciting, you hear his interviews, he's saying all the right things because, in my tenure, I'm not talking post sort of when I've supported it because we've had some good coaches in there. We've won 4 Super Bowls, but I'm used to Pat Shermer. It couldn't get fucking worse. So hearing about Joe Judge, everything he could say, it's getting a bit exciting. We've always had a problem with the offensive line, and that needs sorting because we have got some real good weapons. And unfortunately Saquon's injured now, but Saquon, our wide receivers, Darius Slayton, rookie last year, was unbelievable. You got Golden Tate, Pro Bowl. You've got Sterling Shepard. He has quality as our wide receiver. He's just injury prone, but we've got him there. And a second-year quarterback in Daniel Jones, who, as much as he had all his turnovers last year, he was actually a decent quarterback under pressure. So if you think you can sort that pressure out and give him time, you would expect him to be better. So it was exciting coming in. I thought we drafted well for Dave Gettleman anyway, the prick. But we turned up at the Steelers, and I think we should have won that game. It was, I think it was by 10 in the end we lost, which I was happy because my bet came in. But we should have won that game, I think. And the Bears, we definitely should have won. Making Mitch Trubisky look like fucking Brady in the first half just killed us. We shut them out in the second half. It's a game we should have won, but losing Saquon, he's just devastating. Massive. And how do you get motivated after losing him? So then you're turning up and you're thinking, you look at the roster before all 49ers injuries and you think, well, if we go 0-2, we're going 0-3, likely going to go 0-4, which we'll come on to, we're playing later. But then you see all these injuries to 49ers. I think they had 11 first teamers out. First and second and fourth cornerbacks, you're thinking, we've got no Saquon, we're going to pass the ball more. Their first choice safety's out, just protect DJ and let him drop the ball out. And then, unfortunately, Jason Garrett decides to, I don't know what he was doing, but we ran verticals once and it was in the fucking fourth quarter. The one time we went for a deep ball, and lo and behold, Giants doing Giants. Slayton caught it, got tackled, fucking fumbled. What a surprise! But yeah, turning up at the MetLife, needing to make a statement against last season's runners-up, knowing that you've got them on the ropes with all their injuries, and psychologically they're fucked as well with how the coach was coming out saying they didn't want to play at the MetLife, moaning about all the injuries after the Jets game there, and to show up and let a team have 8 possessions in total and not score. to be fair, they did miss 2 field goals, but having that opportunity, it's just embarrassing. And 36-9, it didn't flatter the 49ers. It could have been a lot more, and it should have been. We were a joke. And now you sit there, and it's just, again, unfortunately, it is Dave Gettleman. We still haven't sorted that O-line. We drafted Andrew Thomas at left tackle, who looks good, and you're seeing the snippets come out of him. First 3 games, he's dealt with some big players, and has handled them well. But he's on his own. You've got fucking Hernandez next to him. He's just looking amateur. We've moved a right tackle into centre, Nick Gates, and not drafted a centre. Now, Nick Gates has had some all right games, to be fair, but he's not a centre. And then you've got Cam Fleming at right tackle. I can't handle. And, Saquon got injured, and don't get me wrong, it wasn't an injury where he was beat behind the line, but the extra efforts he was having to put in to get, beyond the scrimmage line. He'd done 2 hurdles before he got injured and come off with an injured shoulder, missed 1 snap, come back on, and then goes and does his ACL. It's a repercussion of what we were having to do. And yeah, the season is looking bleak, mate. It really is. And I think for me, what worries me a bit more is, I'm a fan of DJ. Probably a bit more sentimental than it is knowing he's a franchise quarterback, because I am unsure looking at him this season. The 49ers, he was awful. It wasn't just the O-line. He was off with his passes. He was inaccurate. That's the worst I've seen him play. But he must be sat there thinking, shit, we're 0-3. We're looking at our roster and thinking, yes, our division is probably the worst out there, but are we even going to be able to beat Washington? Never mind the Eagles or the Cowboys. And he probably sits there and he will know that Trevor Lawrence is going to be the number 1 pick. And at the moment, we're number 2. And I don't think they think the Broncos are going to get a win on Thursday.
I think so.
And weirdly, the Jets are 5th pick at the moment, but that must be on points, or strength of roster. So, DJ's probably got in the back of his mind, I'm fighting for my NFL career here, because I think if we get number 1 pick and you can't turn down Trevor Lawrence, I think what would happen if it was Dave Gettleman still in charge, he would turn down Trevor Lawrence, because he has to. He has to stick with DJ, and he'd get so much draft capital that you could try and build. But I cannot see him surviving the season. He has to go. He has to go. The guy's a prick. He should have gone last season with Sherman. But I think we've got an all right coaching team in place. Joe Judge does look like a good head coach. Jason Garrett at offensive coordinator should be good. He's not a head coach, but it should be good. He's got the Giants connection there. Yeah. Patrick Graham at defensive coordinator was a shock to me, considering how terrible he was at the Dolphins. But we've actually looked all right defensively, apart from the 49ers. Leading up to the 49ers, we were the 4th ranked team on yards given. So there's something there. We've got some good defensive players. Unfortunately, our secondary is very young, and they make mistakes. Bradbury has been a revelation, an absolute revelation from a free agency. And what you saw when we started the game with the 49ers, the first quarter, they were targeting him stupidly. But again, Mullen, second-string quarterback, probably adjusting to the game. And I think it was 4 pass deflections, and he looked good, and we were making Mullen look like a second-string quarterback. And then all of a sudden, he switched it up. We couldn't play Logan Ryan at our second cornerback because Jabril Peppers got taken off injured. So Ryan moved into safety, and we were playing fucking Yadam or whatever he's called at cornerback. Thank God it wasn't Valentine, but still, he's not good enough. And he was just target after target after target, and he was just running us riot. It was crazy. So yeah, we've just dipped into the market. We've actually taken one of your practice squad guys. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah.
Cornerback.
Very highly rated.
Giving him a nice signing on back bonus to take away from Vegas, but they're obviously looking at trying to fix that, and they need to. But for me, we moved Logan Ryan to corner with Bradbury in the second half of the Bears game. We shut them out. that needs to be our 1 and 2. And just hope that I've not seen an update on Peppers yet, but hope that he is back. And they're not going to play all the snaps together, but if we have those two, Darnay Holmes and Peppers in the safeties, then I can live with that, with Blake Martinez at linebacker, who's been a monster so far, an absolute monster. He's third highest rated tackler I read before through the first 3 games. Every credit, free signing from Green Bay. Most overrated team out there, just saying. Had to get that in. But yeah, so it's bleak, and it's going to be another horrible, horrible season for the Giants, and just painful getting excited every Sunday. But it's the sport we love, unfortunately. I don't know how or why I love it, supporting these shite, but we've got the Rams on Sunday, and who knows, we could turn up and get a shock result. We won't, but there's always a chance.
Yeah. Tough
so the
season.
Raiders game, over to you.
Yeah.
Is that what you want to speak about, although the first 2 were good?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I do. I agree with what you're saying about the Giants as well. I think just before I move on to the Raiders, I think the Giants have got a very, very long season ahead now, starting 0-3. And I think, obviously, we as you said earlier, we speak outside of the group chat about stuff, because I do think a lot of the time it is just me and you talking. But yeah, I do think it's going to be a tough season. I agree that if you are number 1 pick, that Lawrence has to be chosen. We've only just started really getting into college football, haven't we? So,
yeah,
we watched last year's final, and he looked okay, but there's a lot of hype.
That's the right word, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah, but I don't really know what the gauge is. Don't really know, but there seems to be a lot of hype about him. And Burrow for the Bengals actually looked pretty good, and he looked all right. He looks better than Lawrence last year. But he looks pretty good. He looks the real deal for me for Cincinnati. And he got nailed on Sunday. Absolutely nailed.
Joe Burrows is dead.
Yeah, Twitter just went off with the amount of people saying he's died. I actually had to check to see if he had died.
Yeah.
Because Jamie put it in the group, didn't he, saying Burrows just died.
Yeah.
Twitter said it as well. But for the Raiders, it's a great start going 2-0. Beat Carolina, beat the Panthers week 1. Pretty comfortable win, really. I was quite happy with that. Steady performance. The Panthers are shit. I think that helped. But a comfortable win on the road helps that there's no fans in the stadium, I guess. And then, as you mentioned earlier, beat the Saints. Monday Night Football, first game in Vegas.
Brilliant game.
Yeah, great game to win as well, beating New Orleans, who many people fancied to be there or thereabouts. Thought just played well. I thought Gruden played a not perfect game, but a really good game against a great head coach and a great quarterback, and an amazing running back in Kamara. Keeping him quiet was probably half the battle. And then I'd rather not talk about last week. Not a fan of New England is probably an understatement. Can't stand New England at all. Just can't stand them. They're the Man United of NFL for me. But you've got to play the perfect game to beat Bill Belichick. And for the first half, we kept with them. We stuck with them. And even early on in the third quarter, but we got beat up. We're a young team anyway, and I think having no pre-season has massively impacted those young players we've got, that are certainly the rookies and then potentially the guys in the second year. That is most of the offense, or the weapons anyway. I think it was actually all of the weapons on Sunday. It was Josh Jacobs, and Ruggs was out. Bryant, he's a rookie. Edwards got injured during the game. Hunter Renfrow is his second year. Jacobs is in his second year. So I think it was tough to come up against a solid New England team on the road with a young team that had just beat up, losing players left, right, and centre. But you'll probably remember I wasn't a fan of Gruden at first. didn't particularly want him to come back. Was not happy with the Khalil Mack trade at first. Pretty angry about it actually. However, now I look back and I think bringing in Mike Mayock as the general manager was an absolute stroke of genius from Mark Davis. I think being an NFL draft expert, never been a general manager before. He obviously worked on TV with Gruden, so they had a relationship already. And he knows rookies better than anyone, really. So knowing we had the draft capital we had last year and this year, I think it was just an absolute masterstroke to bring him in. Yeah. And you look at the players we brought in. All right, Cleveland Farrell was 4th pick overall. He's not set the world on fire, but he's been steady. His stats, I think he outperformed Khalil Mack in his first year. I think I read somewhere.
Yeah.
And you look at the other players they brought in. Max Crosby, I think, was a 4th round pick. He finished the year with 10 sacks last year, out of a really small school. I think it was East Michigan. He's turned.
Yeah, that's unbelievable for a 4th rounder.
Yeah. It's I think what we spoke last year. What they tend to go for, what it seems like they're going for, is players with a certain mentality, a certain personality, and we improved last year. All right, we were in the runnings for the playoffs. Early on, and then injuries and one thing or another, tough run of games led to us blowing out really. And we started 2-0 this year. Quite happy. Got turned over on Sunday, and we've got a really tough run of games coming up now. Got the Bills this week, who are looking pretty good.
Josh Allen up there, MVP at the moment.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk. I'm in a Raiders group chat, so shout out to the guys in that. And there's a lot of talk from a few people I follow on Twitter that the Raiders will be very close to beating them, if not beating them. And I cannot see it at all. I think we're a team that are wounded. We've come off a really difficult game to then go and play another difficult game. So for me, it'll be damage limitation. I hope we're there or thereabouts, but I just more of a realistic can't see it. And then we've got the next 2 games are the Chiefs, which Mahomes is shit, isn't
he? Awful.
Don't even know why he got a contract, to be honest.
No.
And then I think it's a bye week after that. And then it's Tampa Bay, so Brady. And I'm a massive fan of Tom Brady as well.
Absolutely love him, don't you?
Yeah, fucking hate him.
There's extra incentive behind that game now as well with Brady and the fact we've got Jamie and Gaz.
Yeah.
I say Gaz, he's not really a fan, is he? He's just a participant in the group. But Jamie, definitely.
Yeah, Gaz makes up the numbers. I know you'll watch Gaz. So tough few games coming up. If we can come out of them being 3-3, I'll be really happy because it means we've beat one of them. I'd really like it to be Kansas City. Really like it to be Kansas City, a divisional game. But I honestly, it really pains me to say it, but I think they are the best team in the NFL at the moment. I think they beat the Ravens, who a lot of people thought would be this year's team to beat, and they made quite light work of Lamar Jackson. So I just can't see anybody outperforming them at the back end of the season. I really can't. I'm quite happy with the way the team's going forward. It's a young team. You mentioned your secondary. Look at ours is pretty young. We've got Jonathan Abrams, who's an absolute missile. Who he essentially he's a rookie because he got injured in week 1 against Denver last year, and didn't play the rest of the season. And then he smashed himself into a camera car and carried on playing with a broken chipped bone. I think he's going to be an absolute beast. We've just got Damon Arnett drafted him in the 1st round this year. Been playing with a broken thumb, and he landed on his wrist so he's out. And the other player we've got there that I like is Trayvon Mullen. He's in his second year, so that's I'm pretty happy with them. And I'm quietly confident with the young team we have that Derek Carr's protected really well, I think, albeit we've had a few injuries. Trent Brown, absolute mountain of a man, has played about 30 seconds this year. But I'm quite happy. I know Derek Carr massively divides the Raiders fans, massively divides him. I've never known a quarterback split the fans quite like he does.
Yeah. He's Marmite, isn't it? It's weird.
Yeah. I'm biased. I love Derek Carr. I think he's a great quarterback. He's a good quarterback. Great's probably a bit too far.
Pro Bowler.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was MVP candidate in 2016 till he broke his leg. I think I'm quietly confident that in 2 years' time or 3 years' time, if we keep most of the players together, the youngsters anyway, and keep protecting Derek Carr, I do think we'll be there or thereabouts. It's tough because we've got Kansas in our fucking division, and they're going to be there or thereabouts for the next fucking 10 years because of that prick. Can't really call him a prick. I think he's a fantastic player, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And I can't. I said, I think when we watched the Super Bowl last year, I don't like the 49ers either. And so it was a bit of a lose-lose game for me. But I think I said I can't have Jimmy G winning a Super Bowl over Patrick Mahomes. It just wouldn't have sat right with me.
Guy's a shambles.
Yeah, I just think Jimmy G's shit. Really think he's bang average. And I know my mate John Porter will be watching, big 49ers fan. He's been over to San Francisco twice on his own now to watch them. But don't like Jimmy G, mate. Apologies.
Yeah.
But we have spoke about it many times, so I know it's not a surprise to you. So I'm all right with where the team's at, really. I think Gruden's a hell of a character. He's a funny guy. And I think the foundations are in place now for us to try and do something in the next sort of 2, 3, 4 years. So that's where I'm at with the Raiders. So I think we'll go back to look at this week's results, shall we? Mentioned I've got them on my phone here. So mentioned the big one was the Monday night game. Obviously. Kansas against Baltimore.
It wasn't as close as what everyone thought it'd be,
was
it?
No, and Mahomes had some really terrible stats, 385 yards, threw 4 touchdowns and scored one himself. But, I just think that wasn't really a surprise for me as such. The surprise was how quiet they kept Lamar Jackson. He only threw 97 yards, which is he's poor, really, from any quarterback standards, regardless of who you're playing. Any results that stick in your mind from last week?
Yeah, I mean, the one for me, like you say, is Ravens really not getting anywhere. I had Chiefs down to win in our NFL pick'ems, but I was still a bit. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a spectacle. These are the two teams that it's a shame that they can't meet in the Super Bowl, because that for me would be, unbelievable.
Last year, that would have been the Super Bowl. Really.
Absolutely. I was shocked that the Panthers beat Chargers.
I wasn't.
I didn't see that coming. The Chargers, for me, well, it was more that the Panthers have looked shite, and they've had a lot of change. You've got Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback that just, for me, is not going to cut it. But I think, is it Matt Rule that's gone there?
Yeah.
The Giants were linked with him, and again, like you say, we've only just started getting into college football. From what I read, really, big things about him. But I was sat there thinking he's not got much here. He's clearly rebuilding for a season. They've had 2 results that weren't the best, and then them going out and beating the Chargers, who had looked sort of defensively solid. was a shock. I'm sort of going through the rest. I'm really surprised the Colts beat the Jets. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
And I suppose the other was I didn't expect the Lions to beat the Cardinals. I thought the Cardinals were going to be up there this year. I still think they will. But we've got a fan, Ben Jones, in the group of the Lions, who was celebrating that it had beat their losing streak, and it seemed like there's nothing but misery there in that club. And it was a result. It wasn't a huge shock because obviously it was a close game, but it was one where I was like, okay, didn't really expect that. And then I suppose the other result to mention is the fucking Eagles and Bengals.
Yeah.
The absolute calamity that is Carson Wentz. Did you see that final play in overtime where they absolutely screwed up having a chance at the field goal? And it that for me screams out, sorry, Phil. You've now chose to be an Eagles fan, but they've had their Super Bowl win. They've got a hard road ahead of them. And until they do something about Carson Wentz, they're never going to be anywhere. The Cowboys are going to get this division by a bye, season in, season out at the moment, because the Cowboys are shite. They are. I don't care that they're classed as America's team, and I don't care that I'm biased because they're divisional. They are shit. But each season they will get away with it because they have 3 terrible teams in that division. Can you imagine how lucky they must be as a team, or they must feel as a team and as an owner, to know that every season you're guaranteed a playoff spot because you're turning up against Washington, the Giants, and Philadelphia Eagles?
Until this season, it was very much like that in the AFC East with Patriots. The Bills haven't been anything until last year.
Yeah.
And before, and the other 2 teams, obviously the Dolphins and the Jets, have been absolutely terrible. Jets won the first AFC team to win the Super Bowl, but it's always been a bone of contention of mine that a lot of Jets fans say that they won the first Super Bowl. They won the first game that was called a Super Bowl, but I think they backdated the 2 games previous, so it became Super Bowl 3.
Right.
So they were first Super Bowl winners, and but you didn't win Super Bowl number 1, so you can't be.
Yeah.
It's always been a bone of contention of mine between somebody I know. So, it's the other result I was just looking at then was actually the Bills game, which was the Bills Rams, which sort of Bills took an absolutely storming lead. And I think they sat in the locker room for probably about 20 minutes. And the Rams came back, and then they ended up winning the game anyway.
By the skin of the teeth.
Yeah. Who's right? Yeah, who's going to win the Super Bowl? Go on then. Who's going to win it?
You're going to hate me.
I'm not.
But I have the Patriots to win it.
Ooh, okay. I'm going to hate you.
I just think Cam Newton he just brings a complete different approach to New England than they've had for years. And it gives Belichick, who, again, I know he's got his demons out there, but he's ex-Giants. I can't hate him. He is a tactical mastermind when it comes to NFL and the players that he gets to buy into him. And we've all seen the problems Cam has had. His attitude stinks. He's a sulker. But you look at these 3 games that he's played from, his stats look phenomenal in regards to he may as well be playing running back. And not only that, you hear his interviews, and I know they lost the second week, didn't they? But his interview after that game wasn't the Cam that we saw after the Super Bowl, where just had a big dummy on the floor. It was very much the professional. I don't like the taste of defeat, and I'm going to make sure that I put this team on my back, and we carry it forward. And unfortunately, your guys were the recipients of that. But I think he's 3 weeks into a Belichick scheme. He's probably had a month and a half pre-season, and he's a very limited pre-season at that. I just think they're going to become unstoppable, and they're not in the Chiefs division, so they'll get a ticket into that Super Bowl. The Bills do look good, but I think it's a bit too early for Josh Allen yet. He's had 3 games. They're not exactly the hardest. Rams is a solid game, but they come through it. But I think for me, Patriots versus the Chiefs in that AFC could be a very, very, very enjoyable game, and one that is purely the flip of a coin for me that they could get through. And if they get through, let's face it, the AFC side are winning it. Whoever gets through, the NFC is just appalling.
That was my next question. Who's going to play them from the NFC in the Super Bowl? Then I think we'll both probably have a similar opinion on which team.
Yeah, is it the one that I don't like the quarterback, but he started to make me eat my words?
Oh no, I was going to go. Seattle. Sorry, yeah. I thought you were going to say Green Bay.
No, God, definitely no. He's not making me eat my words. He's a one-trick wonder. He throws the ball at the end of the fourth quarter as far as he can and hopes someone catches it. It's got to be on it. Russell Wilson is looking unreal. And they've got DK Metcalf, who, don't get me wrong, he made an absolute rookie mistake at the weekend, just easing his run up and getting that ball punched out of his hand, but he made up for it in another TD. The guy is just a beast. He can jump and reach higher than the goalposts. You don't get that from a standing jump. It's disgusting.
No.
And having that with Russell's ability, although they conceded 31 points to the Cowboys, which is, strong. The Cowboys just, yes, they've got Dak, but I still think he's overrated. I think Elliott's overrated. You shouldn't be conceding that, but the fact that they can just outscore them, I think that'll be the case. The NFC is a weak side in comparison to AFC.
I agree.
So I think it's a ticket for them, and they've just got to be up for it on that final day. And if Russell finally wants to claim MVP, he's got to really put that side on his back and try and get them to the promised land and get them over the line, because they've got some real talent.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on Seattle. I do think the Seahawks will be there, there or thereabouts anyway. And I can't see past Kansas City. It annoys me to say it, but they are very, very, very good. I do think Chiefs Patriots would be a hell of a game if that's the AFC Championship game. Belichick is as good as you need to be in the playoffs. 9 times out of 10, and Andy Reid is I fucking hate him. He's a great coach. I just think it's a shame, as you said earlier, it's a shame that it has to be one AFC team, one NFC team, and not the two best teams in the NFL. But Seattle are looking pretty strong. I'm a fan of Russell Wilson. I saw him tear strips off the Raiders in London a couple of years ago. So if anything, I've seen Seattle win as many times as I've seen the Raiders win. And I just think Kansas City Mahomes will think, I think he'll have the edge on Cam Newton. So it was between Patriots and Kansas City for me, but I do think the Chiefs will get there. If you were going to pick a dark horse from either side, who are you going for?
The Steelers, I think they've got it in them. And where should I go? It's hard to pick a dark horse in a fucking AFC side, isn't it?
Yeah.
What am I meant to pick? There's about 5 or 6 teams that are not dark horses, so I'm then going with someone that's got no hope. I probably couldn't pick one. I think if you're asking me to pick the seconds, the Patriots would obviously be the Chiefs. But then who knows? The Bills, Josh Allen could be the real deal. He could keep doing what he's doing over and over again. He's young, he's healthy. He looks like he likes a challenge. He looks like he wants to put the team on his back. He can rush for a white guy at quarterback. He can do it all. But I don't think that's an underdog. I don't think it's a dark horse. So I think I'll go for the Steelers from the NFC.
I tend to agree with you. I think Steelers have been there before, haven't they? So I can't stand Big Ben.
I'm with you.
Just fucking hate him.
Yeah.
But I think if I was to go a dark horse, I'd probably, just looking out, like you said, you can't really. The obvious teams are obvious, so they're going to be there or thereabouts anyway. Would you call the Bills a dark horse? Probably not at this stage.
No.
Do I think the Titans will be there? No. I think they had their chance last year.
Agreed.
I don't know. Do you know
what about the Cardinals?
Yeah, I mean, I would have gone Cardinals from NFC, I think. But no, I'm going to go Raiders. Let's be biased. And say if we can put a run together after these next 3 games, which are tough. We've got a bit of a stretch of games that I think are winnable. So we come out of the next 3 being 3-3. I think we'll certainly put ourselves close to there or thereabouts, especially with extra teams getting playoffs this year as well. Top 1 and then 3 best runners up or three.
That's what you've got to hope for, isn't it? Being in bloody Kansas division.
Especially when we've got Denver and the Chargers who aren't shite, but they're definitely beatable. Certainly the Chargers being now in LA, which is where the Raiders used to be. So if fans were allowed to be there, we would take over that stadium like we used to in San Diego as well. And I think it could be a good time to play the Broncos at the minute. I think
absolutely
they're struggling. I'd like to think we'll pick up 4 wins there, but something will happen where we don't. So if we can nick a playoff spot, I think 9-7 might get a playoff spot this year. Certainly last year I would have said 10-6 you would have needed to be, but I think 9-7 could potentially sneak in there. So doable, and then it's not so much a lottery the playoffs, but it's a 1 game, isn't it?
It's a knockout, isn't it?
Yeah, and anybody can almost beat anybody on the day, with the exception of the Jets.
Unless you're the Giants.
I went with the Jets. Unless you're a New York team.
Yes. What a shite place for football.
But, so I think that's probably all we had to talk about, really. I think
so. Yeah, so quickly for first episode then, so you just said you think 9-7 can make it. Is that the prediction for what the Raiders season is going to be?
I hope so, because then we've progressed from a poor team to being a winning team. I think that even if we finish 8-8, that's still progression, I guess. But I'd like to get a winning season in. I would be happy with 9-7.
What's one of them?
We've had, I think we've won in 14 years, mate. So or something ridiculous like that. So I'd be quite happy to finish 9-7. I will take that as progress with a young team, young secondary, young wide receiver corp. I'd be happy with that. Really happy. And what are you saying for the Giants then?
So I think the Giants for me, where do we get our wins? We probably, if I'm hoping we can beat Washington twice and pick up a win maybe against the Eagles once. Pains me to say it, but I think the Cowboys would do a double over us. I can't see us beating anyone outside of our divisions because we were dealt a real tough schedule. So I'm going to go 3-13 and number 1 pick. No, because I think the Jets. I don't think the Jets will win all season.
Yeah, I do actually like Darnold. I think he's all right.
You were saying.
I just think the rest of the team is very, very shit.
It's awful, and Gase is just terrible.
Yeah, totally agree. Massively agree. So that's I think that's it for episode 1. Hopefully we'll be on next week. Don't know. We're just winging it. We don't really know what we're doing. We have managed to draft in some help from a good friend of ours, Jamie Crawford. He's on his own one of these podcast type things. So check them out. Conversations with Jamie. I have starred in one myself, so you know they're pretty good. Yeah, hopefully we'll see you next week. Check us out on Facebook. It's Third and Shorts Podcast. If you know us both, we've shared it on our own profiles and stuff like that. And we've also got the Twitter account up and running, which I don't know if we've used properly yet, but I can't even remember. I'll tell you what the Twitter handle is.
I think it's @3rdpod.
Yeah, it is something like that. I've got it here now. It is @3rdshortspod. And we've got 10 followers.
That's close.
Yeah, we'll be uploading this to YouTube. It'll be on Facebook. We're going to try and get it onto Spotify and things like that with the help of Jamie. And hopefully we'll see you again soon.